people started pointing it out, and they were like, I'm sick of seeing your face on my FYP. I'm tired of hearing you talk. Shut up. And I'm like, why are people being so mean to me? Hello, people of the internet. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Bree and I love zines. And today I want to talk about one of the newest zines I made. It's called Make a Zine With Me. This is the master copy, so it's a little bit janky and you can see all the tactile bits of it, but I want to give a reading of this zine specifically, the master copy, because I think it's more interesting to see all the collaging and sort of the thought process of what went behind my choices. I feel like it's visually appealing to be able to see it in all of its messy glory. So we'll be doing a tour of the master copy. I want to read it for you guys, but I also have copies. So this zine was originally made for my zine club over on Patreon. So if you're not familiar with my zine club, it's basically a community online where I am supported by a bunch of members and they're supporting my monthly zine. So I make a brand new zine for them every single month and I share it with the club. So if you join the club, you get stuff like this. You're able to fuel my process and fuel my content and fuel my zines. The reason why I always have leftovers is because sometimes when I send physical mail to my zine club, zines get lost in the mail, sometimes they get damaged. So I need the copies to be able to send out new ones just in case. I have quite a sizable stack here of leftovers and half of them already sold. Here's the stack of, I think 20 or so, maybe 25 that I have left, and they're listed in my shop. So if you want a copy of this, they're available. You can check out the link in the description for my online shop, Bree's Tiny Print Shop, or you can also join my zine club to view it digitally, but I'm gonna read it right now for free. So if you're interested in reading this zine, physically, you can get the physical copy here, but I'm gonna read it now because I think it's really important to be able to share some of our processes with each other, and not for the sake of people copying you. I don't want people to copy me like word for word, bar for bar, but I do want to show some insight about zine making from my perspective, just in case it sparks something in your brain. Like maybe you see something that I write in here or share something about my process and it inspires you in your own. So that's why I want to share it. Also, money. Sometimes people don't have $5 to buy a zine of mine, or the shipping too costs money. So I want to make sure that the information that I share in here is accessible. Not everybody has to do this. Like, I'm not saying like always share your zines for free, but it may just help someone watching, or maybe at the very least it entertains you. Like maybe you just like hearing people's perspectives of their art, or you just like to listen to people read their zines and give context to it. I'm really excited, so hopefully you guys like it. And without further ado, let's go into the reading. Okay, so my zine, Make a Zine With Me, was inspired by my zine series with the same title. So if you're not familiar with that, I have a series of short form content called Make a Zine With Me, and I basically just show you in about 60 seconds or less my process of making a zine. And trust me, it does not take me 60 seconds to make a zine. Those are filmed within a series of a couple of days, or maybe even a full day I put aside to make those types of videos, and then I condense it down to a minute to just give some short form content. But I really enjoy making those, but it inspired me to go more in depth with the idea of making a zine with me. So this zine basically gives my insight of zine making and some of the tips and tricks that I do to make zine making either easier for me or just stuff that helps with my style. So this collage that I made was clipped from some old magazines, and you can see just how tactile it is. I just basically used double-sided tape to make the collaging and cut it up. You can see where I made some mistakes and had to put tape over the collage, and I used some stamps and some stickers in order to make this look like this. A lot of people always ask me about these pieces specifically. I have some zines that look like they were typed on the computer, but then people are confused because they're like, it looks like it was typed on the computer, but then also you have handwriting in it. I just like to make mixed media zines, so this is typed on a computer. I type it out, print it, cut it up, and then I make little borders around it with Sharpie or pen. So that's all that is. Or maybe I'll take a piece of black cardstock and put it underneath the white piece and then cut it out just to give it a border. So when you open it up to the front inner cover, it says, if you're interested in making your own zines but need some examples to get started, this zine is for you. These pages take you behind the zines of one zine maker's creative process. While every zinester has their unique styles and copying is never encouraged, my aim is to help you find your own artistic fingerprint. You can use these methods and techniques to inspire your own work, jumpstart your process, and practice flexing your DIY muscles. Enjoy. And I ripped up just a very wordy portion of a magazine because I tend to like magazines with a lot of visuals in it because it's really good for collaging. But then there's a lot of boring parts of magazines that just have a bunch of text, but it still can be used. I still like to reuse stuff like that. So I just used it as the base of the background and then wrote with my own handwriting on top of some graph paper and collaged over it with some stickers that I had. And something I like to include in my zines is a cover. Like, I like to include the cover but in threshold. So basically all in black and white. I think it really just adds a dramatic effect, I guess. It's like, make a zine with me. Here's some context to what the zine's gonna be about. Oh, and here's the cover, you know? It's like a reminder of what the zine's going to be about. It gives it a little bit more context, but I like being able to make it in black and white because it just adds a little something to it. I don't even know if people notice that, but it's just something I like to do sometimes with my zines. All right, so this is very wordy, but I wanted to give a little bit of insight about coming up with ideas. Sometimes people ask me about how I even come up with my ideas, and it's not something I can so easily explain. I've been making zines for about 7 or 8 years now, and so now I've evolved into the type of zine maker that's mostly intuitive. I typically always start with a draft, and a draft is very bare bones. It just has a blank zine folded up like this, and then I write down what may go on each page, but it's not fleshed out. It's like a very bare bones draft, rough draft, very rough draft of what the zine may look like, but they're just guides. It's not telling me exactly what I'm gonna put on the page, what it's gonna look like. It's just a guide. So I know, oh, on this page, I wanna make a playlist. On this page, I wanna explain how I source my materials. But as I'm making it, I'm not really putting a lot of thought into it. And that's a really bad way of phrasing that too, because obviously I think about it, but it's like super intuitive to the point where I'm just moving and whatever comes out, comes out. So that's what I'm trying to say. I write a little bit about it here, and I say, when people ask how I come up with zine ideas, I'm a bit embarrassed to say I don't know. I feel like it comes across as arrogant, dismissive, or at the very least rude, but I swear that's not my intention. I'm just being honest. I really don't know where the ideas come from, but I do have an idea how they form. My process is messy, non-linear, and happens in random bursts. But when it does happen, and an idea just hits me, it's usually from a feeling. I don't think much at all. I kind of just feel something and start working backwards from that. It's so hard to explain, but one example of how it hits me is when I listen to music. I know a song is inspiring a zine idea when I start replaying it over and over and over again. There's usually something about the beat or the chorus that makes me feel something. There's no clear picture in my head that tells me to make this zine idea. I just listen to the song while I work on a draft, and the zine sort of materializes the more I chip away at it. Putting on music helps me set the mood, elicit a vibe, plop me into something that doesn't exist only in my mind. I can feel the music in my eardrums, and its vibrations travel down to my hands, and before you know it, I'm making something inspired by the song that's uniquely my own. One example I have of this is when I created a zine inspired by the song Sticky by Tyler, the Creator. I listened to that track about 50 times over the course of a week before I made my 36-page sticker zine that I named after the song. So when it comes to zine ideas, my advice is to put on some music. Any music. It can have lyrics, it can be instrumental, it could be portions of a Broadway musical for all I care. Just put on whatever makes you feel, then follow that feeling. It certainly takes some practice because the feeling isn't always so clear at first. But remember, there's no rush when it comes to zine making. What helps me is writing the idea down into a draft as soon as it hits me. Even if it's ugly, even if it doesn't make sense, and even if it changes over time. I don't think about it, I just do it. The more I do it, the easier it is to create without a clear end result in mind. I never really know how a zine will turn out, but when I follow how I feel, something usually materializes. Just like the people who read my zines, I'm often surprised with the final results too. So basically, I'm very much inspired by music. If you've seen any of my Make a Zine With Me videos, you can see that they kind of correlate with the song, and they kind of change up and are edited to the beat or to specific portions of the track. I don't know how I do that. People always ask me too. They were like, how are you timing it like that? How are you being able to orchestrate it like that? I don't know. But it does take a lot of time. And I just kept doing it over time, and it got better. My zine making helps my content, and then my content helps my zine making. It's very strange. I really don't know how to explain it, but that's something that really inspires my zine work. So because I'm very inspired by music in my zines, I made a little playlist of songs that are inspiring me lately, and you guys can go ahead and look at some of these, listen to some of these. They're some of my favorite songs right now. And on the next page, I talk about zine junk. So basically stuff that I find along a walk or maybe throughout my day, scraps of paper, bits of junk, of trash that I like to keep. And this is the master copy. I didn't put a bag in here, but it says save what inspires you in the bag. And then there's a clear bag in the copies. That way you can put zine junk of your own that you find throughout the day. And the collage is basically just a bunch of zine junk, stuff that I would typically use in my zines. And you can see like this right here is from a tag from some shorts I bought from Cotton On. This is a sticker someone sent me with their zine trade. This is the extra stamp that, I mean, it's not a stamp, but stamps usually come on a sheet and they're all sticky. This part is also sticky, but there's no use for it. It's just the barcode. So that's something I would typically use in a zine, and some random stickers and another zine card that I got from a trade. So in the copy on this page, it does include a bag for the reader. So you see there's a little clear bag, and its intention is for you to slip in any of your zine junk. So say you found like, I don't know, a random button or sticker. Here's a sticker that I bought the other day. It says in my grandma era. I thought it was pretty cute. But say you bought this like I did, or maybe you found it out for free, like at a coffee shop or something. This is something I want you to return to the zine. Keep it in here so you always have some sort of zine junk or something that inspired you at one moment that you can return to later. Because I want this to kind of work as like a workbook of sorts. I don't want it to be something that people read just one time. I kind of want it to be something that people revisit when they need a little extra help with their zines. And on the other side it says, another way I find inspiration for my zines is by letting the little things in life spark my curiosity. Stuff like trash from my lunch, a receipt from Barnes & Noble, or even junk mail are pieces I can save for later and use in my work when an idea comes to me. This is not to say keep every little scrap you come across each day, but I want you to practice holding something in your hand before you throw it away. Examine it. Try to envision it in your zine work. Are there certain colors on this scrap that stand out to you? Does the trash have big, chunky letters that you can cut out? Maybe the piece holds sentimental value. I want you to feel the energy of that paper scrap and try to think about how it will look in a future zine page. Perhaps you could rip it up and make it the background of a collage. Oftentimes I take parking tickets that are paid off first, of course, expired coupons, and random business cards and tape them into my work. I included a small bag on the left page that you could return to and add small little scraps that inspire you. Straw wrappers with cute designs printed on them, movie tickets, Polaroid pictures, post-it notes, random stickers. I want you to add these things to the bag and revisit them when you figure out how to use them in your zines. And you can see all the stamps that I used, and oh, this is a great example of what I meant on the cover. So this piece, I just taped the paper on here and drew around it with a Sharpie. I used this ultra fine point Sharpie and I literally just marked around it to make the border. But also, like I was stating earlier, I'll cut out black cardstock or black paper and then print out those pieces of typed up writing and tape it on the black paper. That way it gives it a border. So that's a great example of either way. Sometimes I just get lazy, or maybe the paper, I didn't want it to cover too much of the collage and the black paper would have covered it too much. So I just went in with the ultrafine Sharpie and made my own border. But that's how I made that. And then I stamped all around it, and you could even see some of the mistakes I made. And I had to use whiteout. It's just very tactile. It's really cool being able to look at the master copy and even the weight of it, because there's so much collaging in here. There's so much added paper elements that it makes it pretty dense. I don't know. I really like that about the zine, about the master copy. All right. And the next page is some resources. This says, speaking of trash and paper scraps, and look, you can see where I drafted in the back. So this, I just taped over my draft and it says ransom letters. So that's all I had to go for these pages. I just knew I was going to talk about ransom letters, and then what materialized. I mean, obviously, like I hate saying I don't think about it, because I obviously do think about it, but I just don't overthink it, is what I'm trying to say. I just kind of move with it, see what works, and if I don't like something after I put it down, I just change it or use whiteout or scrap it completely and start over. So just to give you a little bit more insight of my process. While we're on the topic of random paper scraps and stuff, I want to show how I make ransom letters in my zines like this. Here's what you want to do to achieve this aesthetic in a way that's easy, cheap, and organized. Step 1. Get yourself a bead organizer from the dollar store. I got mine from Daiso for $1.50. We're not going to use this for beads. Instead, we're going to use this for our cut up ransom letters. Step 2, take a look around your space, your pantry, your closet. Do you have any boxes or bags from stores? You know, like an old shoebox or a stale carton of crackers? If you do, cut up all the letters out of the box. You can also source from magazines, newspapers, or print out your own. Step 3, organize all your letters in ABC order. You can label your organizer bin if you want, but it will be easy to see which letter goes where the more you add to it. So this is what mine looks like, and it's a 42 count just because I like to use the extra boxes for stuff like stars or numbers, images. In the English alphabet, we have 26 letters. So if you want to find like a 26 count or maybe even a 30 count, that might be more beneficial for you. Mine, still pretty empty. I try to add to it when I can, but I use it a lot because I make a lot of zines. But this is what it looks like. I just keep adding to it every now and then when I see something with a lot of letters. There's a 5. What is that? It's like trash. Get out. Even like barcodes I'll save. I'll save words that maybe I use a lot. It says of, the, exclamation points, the number 5, 7. This one was pretty cool. I found this in an old magazine. I think it was for cigarettes, but the 7 has a crown. So something like this, very cheap, very easy. And that's how I make my ransom notes or my ransom letters to use in my zines. And then the centerfold is from an other old magazine. I think I had a magazine from the 70s or something, and this ad was for Calvin Klein, and it's a woman standing up to use the urinal. I don't understand the context, but I thought it looked pretty cool. Just the black and white colors of it, and just the fact that it was old-timey, like it was printed, you could see the grain in it and everything. So I thought that was cool. And like I was saying earlier, there's a lot of portions of magazines that just have a lot of text, and I think these were ads. They're looking for inventors. I guess it was like job ads. I don't know. Very old magazine, but I cut up the boring bits and collaged it on top of the ad. And then I saw another portion of a magazine that said put on your thinking cap. So I thought it kind of fit the vibe of the zine, of just exploring different ways to make your zines, exploring different processes, showing you mine. I thought it really fit the vibe, so I collaged with that. And then this little checkered piece was from a sticker sheet that I got. And like I said with the stamps always come on a sheet or a roll, so everything that they print on that roll or that sheet is sticky, but sometimes they're not a stamp. It's like the barcode or the logo of USPS. Same thing with sticker sheets. There's going to be portions of it that are not the sticker per se, but you could still utilize it, so that's what I did. Let me see if I have an example. Here's one that I got from Dingo Donk Sticker Club, and it has a bunch of these cute stickers of little puppies on it, right? But you see the background where it's sort of like grid paper, that's still printed on the same material that the stickers are. So if I wanted to use it, I could. I don't have to waste the whole sticker sheet. I could use portions of this. I could use where it says Dingo by Donk Sticker Club or whatever. I could use these little bubbles on the side. It doesn't have to be just the stickers that are provided on the sheet. So that's what I did with this here. I saw the little checkered parts of a different sticker sheet. I thought that was pretty cool. So I just cut it up and used it. And then this is a picture of me wearing one of my favorite shirts that I do sell in my shop. So if you like it, you could grab yourself one. It says zine making is the most fun a girl can have without taking her clothes off. That says I print, therefore I am, because that's how I view myself. I am a zine maker. I print, therefore I am. That's my whole existence. My sole purpose in life is to express myself. This is some cool washi tape that I got from a zine trade. I thought it was pretty cool because it's like a little measuring tape. And then on the left hand side it says, I think we all have heard the creative advice to strike while the iron is hot. There's a lot of electricity that happens when inspiration hits you. There's rawness, an urgency, a hunger to execute your vision that's difficult to replicate later. That's the sweet spot where ideas practically beg you to become zine pages, where thoughts are dying to be documented, where dreams ask to become reality. But what happens if we miss it? What happens when we strike later, when the iron is cold? Do our ideas have less value? Should I scrap the idea? No, 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 no. You must give yourself grace and understand that inspiration visits you all the time. Putting pressure on yourself to act fast when an idea hits you is not always conducive. I can tell you right now that I have a brilliant zine idea myself that I've been sitting on for 4 years, but I don't beat myself up about it. I'm simply honoring the fact it's not ready to be made yet. I know that sounds weird, but sometimes the idea comes at the wrong time for me. Zine making isn't a race, it's more of a rhythm. It's something you feel. You see, some ideas bloom fast while others need to steep. The key is to listen. Act when the moment feels alive, but don't panic if it passes because you have a deep understanding that inspiration can always return. This is why it's so important to learn to hear your inner voice or that inner child, that inner artist, whatever you want to call it, and practice trusting it. The magic of creating a zine you're super proud of lies in honoring both your impulses and the process. When that great idea hits you again, remember that you'll be ready. You'll promise to act on it, get your hands to work, and let your feelings guide you. Keep in mind that not every idea is meant to be made right away. Some are slow burning and need more time to incubate, and that's okay. Tuck your ideas away in a journal, speak the idea into a tape recorder, make a note of it on your whiteboard. Think of this process as pressing flowers between the pages of an old novel. Even if you forget them for a while, they'll still be there, hiding their beauty to be discovered later. This again is just more stuff that I typed up on my computer and printed out, and then I collaged it over some leftover grid paper. And I really like this idea of being gentle with yourself. And this is coming from someone that has been hard on themselves for a long time. And there's a lot of factors behind that. Everybody's going to have different reasoning behind why they're really hard on themselves. But over the years, I've had to learn how to really just sit with myself, sit with my feelings, sit with my ideas. Not everything needs to be acted upon right away. Sometimes you need a little bit more incubation, a little bit more marinating. And it's not only to think, that's what I want to get at is like, sometimes when I'm sitting on an idea, it's not that I'm thinking about it or overthinking it. I'm just putting it in a box somewhere in my brain and I tuck it away somewhere inside of me. And then as I live life and have a life outside of my zine work, outside of my art, outside of my content, outside of my business, outside of my other work that I do, when I'm just Bree, unfiltered Bree, just doing my thing, having fun, indulging in my hobbies or whatever, things spark curiosity and interest in me that relates to the idea. I can't tell you how many times that has happened, and it's very hard to explain or to articulate because this happens differently for everybody, right? But sometimes I put an idea away. Say I want to make a zine about like this jar of stamps, but I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. I don't know where to start. I just think, okay, well, I have this idea to make a zine about my jar of stamps. I'll keep that in my head for later. And then say later, like 2 weeks later, I go to an art fair or an art market and I see someone that makes stamp art. That inspires me. And then I'm like, wow, I could do something like that for my zine, like I just let things kind of sit with me, incubate a little bit, just kind of settle into me because I do think my zines are an extension of me. So I feel like when I'm patient with myself and I'm patient with my zines, something really beautiful comes out of it that's more intentional. I don't like to rush my stuff because I think it can lead to a product I'm not proud of or a zine I'm not necessarily aligned with. So I like to really just honor my feelings. I know this sounds all hippy dippy and stuff, but that's just the kind of person I am. I really, as an artist, I think it's really important to take a lot of time to sit with an idea, sit with a feeling, sit with an inspiration. Don't rush yourself through this process because the process is half of it. It's a huge part of it, actually. We always want to get to the final zine because it's something to show. It's something to tell the world, look at what I made. We all want to be able to share the things that we've worked so hard on. But to be able to sit with the process of it, something that you can't always share on Instagram, something you can't always put into words yet because it's still just in your brain. I think we have to learn to be more comfortable with that feeling. And this is coming from someone that had to learn that. I'm not saying I'm above that. I still struggle with that. But that's why I like this page so much because I'm able to really share my insight of what it means to sit with an idea. Just like when you press flowers in a novel. You put the flowers in the book and then they sit for weeks, months at a time, right? Until you finally open them and see that they're pressed and they're dry. That's the same thing I like to think about my ideas is that the longer they sit, the better they can become. That's not always the case, all right? I know sometimes that's just an excuse to procrastinate because we're afraid of getting started. But this is just with the good faith that we are just not quite ready yet, but just trusting that if I wait and don't rush myself, I will find the inspiration. I will find the ideas. They will come about from just being patient with myself. So that's what I'm trying to say here. I think a lot of times people need permission that they don't realize they could give themselves that. You don't have to hurry up and make a zine. You can give yourself the permission to slow down. Over time, like I said earlier, I just became very intuitive with my own process. So I kind of just follow the feeling. And I really like this next page because I found this clipping of Biba Doobie in Cosmopolitan. They did an interview with her. And I just ripped out that page and collaged over it with a portion on how to trust yourself. So basically what I was talking about on this past page of like knowing when to strike while the iron's hot versus letting it sit with you and trusting that it's just sitting with you and you're not an awful person. You're not a procrastinator. You're not lazy. You know, you're just letting it incubate with yourself. So it's one thing to say that and tell people to let things sit with them, but it's another thing to tell them how I learned to trust myself. So I went into some practical advice of things that I've learned that could maybe help you within your process. And I also use my favorite stamps. You could even see the tape that I used. I messed up a couple of times. And so there's like little pieces that are crumpled up. It's just very cheap tape, so it was hard to use. It wasn't as flexible. And you can't feel it, but these are very sticky notes. They're just very cheap, so they're not the best quality. But I like being able to feel all the little bits of the page. And this is something else I got from a zine trade, and I was able to utilize it in my zine. So little things like that really add to it. It's basically zine junk. Like I was saying before, all the zine junk, you can add all of it to make a really cool zine page. So this portion here is how to trust yourself. And I list some things I've learned over the years on how to listen to my intuition. Trusting yourself when it comes to your zine choices, style, and vision is all about confidence. You have to build that strong sense of self, but that takes practice. Here are some things I do to strengthen the trust I have in my voice and creative instincts. 1. What's my why? I often have to remind myself why I make zines in the first place. Am I doing it for expression, to spread awareness about something, healing, fun? Identifying my purpose for publishing myself helps me trust the direction I'm going in. And I just want to note that your why can change every time you make a zine. You don't have to make particular types of zines your entire zine journey. It changes day to day, zine to zine. Okay, so be very, very flexible with yourself and don't be so harsh on yourself. You don't have to just be a per zine person. You don't only have to make informational zines. You can try all types of genres, all types of topics and content. Number 2, F the haters. In the early stages of a zine idea, I always avoid showing my blueprint or notes or drafts to too many people. Too much feedback too soon can cloud my own intuition and allow doubt to creep in. Plus, some people love to hate, so that's also very nuanced too. Some people just giving constructive criticism, but you have to be able to discern what's constructive criticism and what's someone just being a hater and someone just raining on your parade, okay? You have to just learn how to feel what you're hearing. Take it in, feel it, and know that some people's words are useless. It's giving no feedback, it's not positive, it's not constructive. But other times you have to be able to take in criticism and know that, oh, this person's not being a hater, they're actually showing me very valid points that can improve my work. Only you can decide and only you can feel what that feels like in your body, but that's a big part of learning how to trust yourself and knowing the difference. Number 3, celebrate small wins. Finished a spread, printed your zine in bulk so they're ready to sell, did a scary zine fest. Those are wins. Celebrate them. When I do this, it helps me build confidence over time that I can do what I set my mind to. 4, revisit old zines. When I look back at my earlier zines, I can observe how much I've grown as a person and improved as a zine maker, which proves to myself that I can keep evolving. Progress shows you that you've finished zines before and you can do it again. Number 5, protect your dreams. If you have a vision, never let others make you second guess it. You don't owe anyone an explanation for the way you choose to make your zines, present them, or distribute them. Number 6, try new things. Experimenting with your zine work can be scary, but it helps you stretch creatively. The more I try and succeed or learn from my failures, the more I trust my instincts. So that's another important thing too. A lot of times when I share a zine, it can be considered a flop. Like I never think anything flops, really, because not just even from my perspective, from anybody's perspective, things are so subjective. What's a flop to one person could be an absolute success to another person, and someone could be so glad that you made it. So consider I made something and it flopped to my standards, maybe. That teaches me something. When I fail or I make a mistake or I flop, it's more information to help you the next time. So that's how I want you to frame some of the things that you feel like you failed at, or some of the things that you feel like it was an ugly result, or maybe it didn't come out the way that you wanted it to in your head. That's just data. It's just giving you a little guide, getting you to the right place, right? Number 7, listen to your feelings. If a page feels off to me, there's almost always a reason why. I am no stranger to completing a zine and then trashing it almost immediately after to start all over again. Same goes with when I'm excited about an idea. If it moves me, I lean more into that. Your emotions are creative guides. You guys, I kid you not. Say I make this entire zine and I hated it. I will throw it away. That's the kind of zine maker that I am. I'm like, this is not going the direction I want it to. It's frustrating me. I will take this, crumple it up, and throw it in the trash. Or, you know, cut it up and use it in a different zine. I don't know. But I can't tell you how many times I've done that because the zine's not coming out the way I want it to. And it just feels off. It doesn't feel right to me. And a big portion or a big theme of this zine here is about following my emotions, following my feelings. That's the kind of creator that I am. I will throw away a zine because I hate it or because I don't like it. But then I use that information of me not liking the way this particular zine is going to do better in the next one. It's all a guide. So whether I hate it or love it or get really excited about an idea, it's all driving me in a certain direction to a final result that I'm gonna like and feel good with. Number 8, affirm your value. You don't need permission to make zines. You already have something worth saying, no matter what it is. Reminding myself that taking up space in the zine scene doesn't take away from others gives me that push to keep showing up authentically as myself. When I show up as me, it inspires others to show up as themselves too. Very important to keep that in mind, that when you make your zines, you're not taking the spotlight away from someone else. You know, like I used to think that when I first started, I started off on TikTok and there's a hashtag on there called Zine Talk and nobody was really using it. So I would use it all the time. And every time I would post a video, I would put hashtag Zine Talk. I did not realize though that I was flooding the hashtag until people started pointing it out. And they were like, I'm sick of seeing your face on my FYP. I'm tired of hearing you talk. Shut up. And I'm like, why are people being so mean to me? Till I clicked on the Zine Talk hashtag and it was literally just me. Like for a good year and a half, simply for the fact that nobody was using it. Now a lot of people use it, tons of people use it, and I'm not flooded on there anymore. It's actually very hard to find me on that Zine Talk hashtag anymore, but it made me feel really bad where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm taking the spotlight away from others just because I'm so excited about my ideas and maybe I'm sharing too much. And no, that's ridiculous. You can never share too much. It's your profile, it's your platform. And yes, to be fair, I was flooding the hashtag, but when I really thought about it, I'm like, oh, because nobody's really using it. So after a while, I started encouraging people to use the Zine Talk hashtag, and they did, and now we're all in there. It's a shift of perspective. At first, I thought I was taking away the spotlight from others. That wasn't the case. The case was nobody was using the hashtag. So because no one was using it, and I was using it every day, multiple times a day, I was flooding it. But also, I was able to make a video once I knew what was going on. Hey, you guys use this hashtag. It's a really great way to find other zine makers. It's a great way to share your zines. People started using it and I still was posting at the same intensity. I was posting multiple times a day, every day, but now people are participating in it. So now we're all here and look, everybody's being seen. And not to say that the algorithm always works that way. The algorithms have changed a lot. Maybe they don't work that way anymore. But what I'm saying is, what if I just stopped posting because I was like, oh no, people are getting annoyed seeing me on this hashtag. You know, like I don't want you to prevent yourself from sharing because you think either one, you're annoying, taking up space, or two, you're afraid to shine. That's another thing I think a lot of people are afraid to speak on is that you might know that you have these talents within you, that you can make a killer zine, but you're afraid of actually succeeding in that. That's a very real thing. Don't be afraid of taking up space and shining your light because that inspires other people, okay? And also, don't let other people dictate how you operate online. I mean, unless you're harming others or doing something obscene and offensive, you're allowed to post on a hashtag or you're allowed to post certain videos within the algorithm or within the platforms, you know? Just do what you can in a way that is not hurting others, you know? I don't think ever posting and sharing your work is hurting other people. That's just nonsensical to me. It doesn't make sense. It's like an excuse to not share. Don't be afraid to take up space. I mean, if I was afraid to take up space, I would not have this channel with all of you guys watching and being able to share these resources and share my zines. Take that as like proof that you can share yourself. And yes, people may speak negatively on it. Don't get me wrong. I get so many negative comments, but because there's like 40,000 subscribers here that want to hear me speak, I continue speaking. It's for me and for you. It's not for those people that are being negative and hating. They already decided they don't like me or they don't like my work. What point is it changing their mind when there's already a bunch of you guys that like seeing what I have to put out there? So just keep that in mind. The more you build with your zine work within the community or on a platform, for example, that was just my example, the more you kind of cultivate an audience or cultivate a community that is just for you, that is for you, and that will grow and be for others. So don't be afraid of that. Do not be afraid of community, okay? All right, so we're nearing towards the end, and here's another collage I made. It says where I find magazines, because that's another huge thing that people ask me, is where I find and source my magazines for collages and stuff. So I say Barnes & Noble can get quite expensive, so here are other places to source cheap and sometimes free magazines. And then I point down to this list where I find magazines cheap, sometimes for free. So eBay is a great one. You can find older magazines on there. The library, you can always ask for donations. Thrift stores usually sell them pretty cheap for under $5. You could go to the dentist's office, ask them if they have any old magazines that they're going to throw out or maybe are outdated. I found a lot of magazines from the dentist's office, nail salon, and the doctor's office. If I ask them for old magazines, they almost always have some in the back that they were just going to throw out anyway. Donations, so that's another thing. Like the library, it really depends. You just have to ask your library and what resources they're able to provide you. But you can get donations just by asking. You know, you could go online and ask people, or go on a Facebook Marketplace, or maybe some kind of community board where you can ask people for stuff for free. Just ask them if they have some old magazines they want to get rid of. Recycling bins. I also find a lot of magazines in recycle bins around my city. I always ask. I'll go outside of a bookstore, ask them if they have any old magazines or books in their in their recycling bin that they would like to donate to me, and I've had a lot of good luck doing that. Also, small local bookstores. So if they don't know that people may want their older magazines, they throw them out, but they also may just sell them really cheaply. So that's where I find my magazines. But the really good ones, and when I say really good, I just mean the stuff with relevant visuals, you know, like a lot of fashion magazines have some relevant things of the times that are up to date. Those magazines are typically more expensive, and I do get them from Barnes & Noble. I shop at Barnes & Noble for that kind of stuff, because if I'm using them in my zines, and this is very specific, okay? This is not going to apply to everyone, but if you're a small business owner and you make collage work and you sell it, or maybe you have a zine club like I do, and I use a lot of the magazines in my work, when I buy stuff, I can write them off on my taxes when it comes tax time. That's why I'll shop at Barnes & Noble, because in my head, I'm like, well, I could buy these magazines right now because I can write them off as a business expense, because technically they are. You know, technically when I make a zine club and people are exchanging money for the zine, or there's zines in my small shop that I'm using these magazines for, that's under the umbrella of a business expense. So that's how I'm able to justify it in my head, spending this amount of money. So I put in some of the receipts from Barnes & Noble. And look, there's a Chappell Roan fan pack that I bought. Juxtapose is a really great magazine. It's an art magazine that I like to use. So I spent about $50 that trip. And then this one, I think I had a gift card, but it was closer to $50. So I bought Vanity Fair. That's pretty expensive sometimes. Dazed and Confused is a really good magazine I like. That was $15. So just to give you an idea, especially if you're a business owner and you cut up magazines in your art or in your business, you use it somehow for your business, you can write that off. Just a tip for my little small business owners out there. If you want the fancier magazines, I also do shop at Barnes & Noble. This page here is blank. It's intentionally blank because I wanted to provide space for you to write Z notes. So like I said earlier, I want this to serve as sort of a workbook to get your juices flowing, getting your creativity flowing. So I left this blank for you to write some notes. And then the last page is just an ode to zines. It's a love letter to zines. And it says, oh, and I really like these stickers. These are clear flake stickers that I get from Daiso. So you can see right through them. So when I collage, it adds a lot of texture. So I collaged on top of grid paper and you could see right through it. I think it adds a little bit more dimension to it. I really like it. Now that we've reached the end of our time making zines together, I'd love to invite you to go off and make your own. The worst thing you could do is copy someone else's zine, compare yours to theirs, or resist making one altogether. Every person's zine tells a story no matter what content is inside. Each zine is a unique creative fingerprint that represents its creator. And when you make one, you're telling the world, I was here. Zines have given me a way to hold my thoughts in my hands, to turn messy feelings into beautiful little booklets. When I share my zines, it's like I'm sharing portions of my heart. In a world that demands perfection and instant gratification, zines let me be me. in all my phases, during all my worst moments, unfiltered, exactly as I am. My zines have been there when I cried, laughed, and screamed into my glue sticks. My zines have watched me stitch broken pieces of myself back together with tape and staples. My zines have never asked me to be polished or palatable or even have good grammar. The only thing my zines have asked of me is to be true. My zines are like a tiny paper stage where I can shout softly from the comfort of my desk and say what's on my mind. Not only have my zines done so much for me, they have also connected with strangers from all over the world. My stories mirrored their own when they felt they were alone in their pain, struggles, and hard times, and inspired them to create little booklets of magic with their name on it. In all its forms, scrappy or elaborate, minimal or multimedia, zines have reminded us all that we're allowed to take up space, to heal on the page, and to riot out loud, with no one's permission but our own. So no matter the use of your zine, I hope you allow the medium to be an outlet. I can't even tell you how many times a zine has saved my life. When I wanted to crash out, drink myself to death, vandalize someone's motorcycle, long story, I made zines instead. I want to share that power with you too. I hope this zine serves as a tool that you revisit time and time again to remind yourself of all the ways you can publish right now. I wish you all the best with your zine work. With all the ink in my heart, Bree. And it ends with another threshold image, but this time, instead of saying make a zine with me, I crossed out me and wrote you, because that's what the zine is for. It's for you to find guidance, to find examples, to find insight on how one creator makes their zines and help you with your own. This is issue number 36 for my zine club, and that's my Instagram handle in case you wanted to follow me. So that is the end of the zine reading. I really hope that you found it entertaining at the very least, but inspiring at the most. And not to say that the zine has to inspire you. Maybe you didn't like the zine at all. That's very fair. I like that though. I like when people don't like my work or certain works because I think it really is just more data teaching you what you do like. That's how I look at all kinds of things. Like when I dislike something, I'm just like, okay, well that confirms more to me that my art style is more this way rather than that way, you know? So it's all information at the end of the day. I want you to take this in as something enjoyable, but also as just data. There's probably pieces of this you don't like or maybe you don't agree with, but I want you, instead of thinking that's something that has to sit in your heart, it could just really just guide you more towards your own zine journey, your own way of doing zines, you know? I really do enjoy being able to talk about my work in these videos. It's one of my favorite aspects of having this channel and being able to make videos and content for you guys is sharing my perspective of zines. I don't know everything about zines. I don't always have advice that is suitable for everyone, but being able to share my perspective is really fun. It's really nice to be able to do this. And like I said earlier, if you like this zine and you want a physical copy, I do have some leftovers in my shop. This is the stack that I have left. I also have a bunch of free resources that you could check out too. And then all my other social media platforms if you're interested in following me on Instagram and all that kind of stuff. So that's it, guys. I hope that you enjoyed it. And until next time, bye.